I have a three-part question for the new album, and then we can wrap up. So, again, from having studio headphones, really listening to the full album multiple times. I have a background in audio engineering, so it's like hearing all the sounds and the instruments and the mixing and production, everything. I'm aware of all that. So three kind of comments and questions for the new album. I find that it's the catchiest album of the three with the most hooks. So I'm wondering if that was a conscious decision. Also, I found that sonically, it's the best sounding album of the three. I found that the first two sounded similar as far as quality. They sound great, but I found that the new one was actually, there was a step up in audio quality that just jumped out to me right away. And the last thing is, Sky, I think this is your strongest vocals to date on album. And I'm wondering if you agree with that. Yeah, I wonder if you agree with that and what you think the reason is between the four years between the last album and this one that helped you strengthen the vocals to where they are today.
That's touring.
Yeah, that's 100% being on the road for as much time. The first record had barely any touring with this project
music,
and the second one I had a bit of experience, but it wasn't until we recorded Initiation that I had literally been I was recording it in between tours, so I was literally at my best vocal performance, because when you're singing every single day on tour, you really, if you're doing the right warm-ups and you're making sure you're staying healthy, you really get into a really great flow
and her
of
voice just
understanding
got stronger
your voice
and stronger as she's singing live every day, compared to like just having an idea. You go into the studio and you work it out, and she's singing clean and she's singing in tune, but she's not singing with heart and character as much as she does on the third record to me. Not that you didn't in the other, right, but it's just developed her attitude and her style, and knowing where she wants to go and where I'd like to hear her go sometimes. I think that being live, she's become this monster of a singer as she keeps going. Wait until you hear some of the new stuff that I'm working on right now.
I think they would say, wasn't it Janis Joplin that would always record her records like right after she got off tour, because she'd have that extra like bit of rasp from just being out on the road for so long. And I think a lot of bands actually used to do that before there was all these recording devices, right? Where you could test your songs out on audiences before you recorded them in the studio. Whereas now, because everyone will record the performance on their cell phone, the song gets leaked before you even recorded it. So it's rare. Yeah, it's rare you get to actually kind of experiment with a song live and see, oh, do I like when my voice goes here versus here, or when I sing this melody longer, or cut these lines more staccato. And I think that even though we weren't able to do the actual songs live, we were able to just experiment.
We were writing while we were touring half the time. So Sky was coming home after like 3 weeks of opening, or a month and a half of opening for Ginger, and just week after week, or day after day singing, she just stepped in front of the mic, and it's not like, oh, let's do 7 takes and figure this out. It's like take one just sounds pretty damn awesome, because her vocals are right where they need to be.
And I think that as you said about the production, like Matt really learned a lot in between Opus Mar and Initiation.
That one was Kane. That one I'll have to give credit to Kane Churko. He's a producer out in Vegas. He's an incredible producer, and he's done a lot of big records. I don't even, Ozzy Osbourne from Five Finger Death Punch, you name it. He's been with everybody, kind of thing. Papa Roach. And Sky and I it was like the first time we'd ever like worked with a producer that was writing with us properly. And he was I thought he'd be maybe like nervous about showing me stuff, like some of these producers don't want to show their tricks. They like they're that's their game. And he was like so willing to he just said, hey man, I know I've already heard your recordings, they're pretty good, why don't you just sit down and watch what I'm doing? And and I was like, okay. So I would have liked to do the whole record with him, but because of pandemic, it got really, I was like, I just can't write a record online like that. We're not at that place I need to be in a room and work lots of hours. So we did 2 songs on the record with him, and I came home and I was like, now we're kind of screwed. I got to try and figure this out. So I spent months trying to get it into the same ballpark that he was in, and using some of his techniques that he showed me. And I give that guy major credit at being an incredible mixer and engineer and songwriter. So, but I learned a lot from it, and I think it sounds pretty good. I think I know what I would fix already, but I don't like to get into it. But I also know that I went pretty loud on it, and some people have complained it's distorting in spots, but I'm like, hey man, I like loud music. This is meant to be loud, yo.
Man, even Rick Rubin doing a Metallica album, there's comments about the distortion, that it's too loud. So he's the GOAT. So if he can do it, it's all good.
Yeah. So I was like, but I'm happy with where I got it so far. I think it's a neat sonic sounding album. Like, one thing is, I don't think it sounds a lot like what sonically is going on. If you listen to what like metal bands that we are touring with or playing with, I don't think we sound same, even tonally. I don't think we sound in that same world. I'm not trying to rip off the same tone that a lot of bands are doing these days. I just kind of want to I'm always trying to find our stuff.
Yeah.
So final comment and final question. So my comment is, there's a Guitar Hero Metallica and there's a Guitar Hero Aerosmith, and Matt, I think there should be a Guitar Hero Sumo Cyco. What do you think?
Oh, that would be awesome. Yes. I'd love to think
the greatest hits riffs from the 3 albums. I think we should do
I would love that too. I think, we keep pushing. Maybe someday that we'll get to that level. I don't know, but it's something that it's not my first goal, but that would be awesome. That's for sure.
That'd be pretty sweet. So final question. If you guys could go back in time to when you were 10 years old.
Turn back time.
I was just trying to elicit you singing that. That was the whole point of that. So if you can go back in time, you can sit down with your 10-year-old selves and you could whisper some advice into your ears. So you've had a lifetime of experience and highs and lows and training and mentorship, all those things. What advice do you give cute little Sky and Matt at 10 years old?
I wish I had a picture of you right now to hold up of you.
Yeah. We'll edit that in afterwards.
Years old. Man, that's a hard one. But it's not from me actually. What I wouldn't do is tell the 10-year-old me. I would tell the father or the mother of the 10-year-old me that you're supposed to hone in on that skill, whatever that kid has. If that kid has a dream or a skill or something and they want it, you don't try to guide them other places. You go with them and you let them, because I feel like my dad and I struggled until I was about 12 or 13 to let me play guitar, because he was a musician and a piano player, and he wanted me to learn piano so that I would learn bass clef. He always had his own science to it. And all it did was stagger me from getting further ahead instead of him. And because he played rock clubs, he was always like, you should get another job. He would always say that. And I was like, dude, like, all I wanted was one thing. If you want to be an archaeologist at 10 years old, then you push them to be an archaeologist until they don't want to be it anymore. And I think that's what I would probably do.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, it's hard to say, because so much that I see it now looking at my niece and nephew of like, you can tell them, just like our parents told us, all these things are advice, but you really have to live it to sometimes understand where the light bulb just clicks and you're like, oh, that's what they were talking about this. But I do think that the little Sky just needed to learn sometimes to breathe in between the moments of anxiety and to just trust your gut. Like, even more, if I could just tell you anything, is just to keep trusting your gut instincts on what to do.
I believe that too. Trusting your gut is a huge one. And if your gut's bugging you, then there's going to be a problem with anything. It usually is that and it's like, I've sworn by that a lot. I do actually. So I would say the same thing to a 10-year-old. I would be like, you got to believe in yourself and trust yourself a bit. But at 10, I think it's hard. So that's why I'd be after their parents more to be like, you got to craft this, nurture this, instead of try to shape someone. You nurture what you see as a talent. And I think that's a really important thing that parents forget too. They're like, what I often question the school board system. I don't want to sound like some weird anti-school board system, but I like even the concept of going to grade 12 and these longer, having to learn math past, your multiplication tables and divisions, having to know square roots of stuff. You only need that for certain things in your life. And I think some people will never use that. So why are we making them learn these things? If they have something they should be honed, and you see that talent from a young age, I believe in nurturing it. And I think that some parents don't believe or don't think enough about how they should.
They're projecting their own views on.
Yeah. And I think it can move a kid forward so much faster if you see that passion in the kid. Why, nurture it. Don't stagger it. And I think that's a huge thing, because I feel like I would have been 3 years to 5 years more ahead if my parents had welcomed my what I wanted to do before they did. They still did eventually, and I love them, but I have no problem admitting that I feel like they didn't nurture me at first that I should have. They should have.
That's all great advice. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up? Maybe about the new album or the new tours, or anything that just needs to be said?
This is a good conversation. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Us.
It's been great. You've done great research on everything.
We are going on tour starting in April. April 28th, I think we start the tour. We're going out with Buck Cherry and a Blacktop Mojo for 18 dates.
And there's Canadian dates. We're doing like Southern Ontario, Ottawa, Quebec, and Montreal, as well as Toronto. And then we're doing a ton of Eastern
American dates,
Central America, kind of doing all the way down to Atlanta.
We're taking a band called
Black Satellite
with us, and they're gonna have a couple openers for each show. Those ones, if are gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a real.
It's gonna be up close and personal.
Up close. See how many tickets we can move for the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks to see if we can get as many.
Yeah, but we want to encourage everybody to come out and have a good time. We promise we will bring really good times. You're not going to walk away having a bad time. Yeah, you're not going to walk away.
Guarantee. You get a guarantee.
Guaranteed. Yeah.